Well, services represent 80% of the UK's GDP, and 45% of those services are exported to the European Union. It represents £277 billion worth of business to the UK. The single market that provided unimpeded rights of businesses to provide services and set up will stop. The major impact will fall on financial services. The financial services sector will lose its right to passporting and right to establishment. Now, this has already been understood and is present in the current withdrawal agreement. So what the financial services industry is doing is seeking a mutual equivalence regime, whereas financial services will not be part of the single market per se, that the rules and regulations of UK financial services and the European Union's rules will be recognised by both. So this is now a point of lobbying.
So in a no-deal Brexit scenario, the UK Parliament has already voted that the UK will not be part of the EU VAT system. So the EU VAT system at current is the overarching legislation for the UK VAT system, and the VAT system is derived from that. The UK law will implement VAT legislation at the date of Brexit, but obviously going forward we will expect deviations between the UK law and the EU law. One of the key considerations from a VAT perspective is looking at the place of supply, rules for services. There are general rules and specific rules. Following Brexit, we don't anticipate the general rules for place of supply of services to change much.
With regard to what businesses need to do now with regard to the selling of their services in the EU, it depends whether they are established in the European Union or they are just not established in the European Union and are providing services on an ad hoc basis. If they are established, then they will have to ensure that their regulatory regime, their compliance, their VAT is on the plane of the country that they are in. Secondly, if they are not established in the European Union, then they have to ensure that the tax implication of the provision of the service is covered, and secondly, the contracts of supply are compliant with European Union law. If they don't do that, it is highly likely, A, that they will be closed down in the country in which they're operating, and B, they will be prevented from supplying those services again.
So my advice for businesses to prepare for a no-deal Brexit scenario for exporting services would be to firstly check any simplifications that they are using. So there are a number of EU simplifications that apply that are mainly sector specific, so such as the tour operators margin scheme, the mini one-stop shop for certain supplies of services. And also there are certain use and enjoyment provisions for certain services that are supplied under EU law. These rely on EU simplifications, and these will be revoked and no longer available following Brexit. So one of the biggest impacts with our clients that we are talking to at the moment is around regulatory concerns. Specifically, a number of UK businesses are concerned that they will be unable to sell services to other EU member states following Brexit. And this could impact a range of businesses, so for example financial services sectors. So the FCA has indicated that there are 5,000 UK financial service providers that currently have EU passporting rights, and following Brexit those rights are going to be revoked. So there is a regulatory impact on those kind of businesses. Another example is patent agents. So patent agents, in order to get an EU patent, require an EU entity. So again, it's a regulatory concern. On the positive side for Brexit, UK businesses who provide financial services to customers outside of the UK can enjoy an extension on current rules which provide for better VAT recovery. At the moment, if you are a financial service provider and you provide your services to a recipient based outside of the EU, you don't have to charge VAT on those services, but you get a VAT recovery position, and that is being extended to UK businesses, so UK financial services providers who provide services to non-UK, so it's been extended to EU recipients. So this is a welcome change. Also, the EU VAT refund mechanism. So the mechanism for claiming VAT back under the EU VAT refund scheme, that will change. So following Brexit, there should still be a mechanism for claiming the VAT back. At the moment, it's a lot simpler. You would claim VAT using your HMRC portal, and it's very much done in the background. So you would make a claim using the portal, and then you may have follow-up questions from the overseas tax authorities. This process will change significantly going forward. So rather than having to use the portal, a direct claim to the overseas tax authorities. So you will have language barriers. There may be deadline changes in terms of due dates for claims, and also periods for claims. At the moment, you would make a claim using a calendar year. That may well change going forward. One of the key drivers to change is looking at your current corporate structure. This is with a view to enable to allow businesses to carry on doing what you are currently doing. There is a lot of pressure in some sectors placed on customers. So the customer is dictating that actually they will only deal with an EU-based business. This is requiring some negotiations. Also, some EU countries are requiring fiscal representatives. If you are a UK business currently registered in another EU country, that country could, going forward following Brexit, apply a fiscal representative. So this may need extra guarantees, extra charges for local fiscal representatives going forward. A local fiscal representative is normally required where you are a non-local entity. So for example, in Belgium, the Belgian authorities may say that a UK business has no presence in Belgium. So as such, they would require a Belgium entity to be a fiscal representative. And a fiscal representative is somebody who is required to pay the taxes in that country. Another little bit of advice for UK businesses when preparing for Brexit would be to look at whether there are any updates are required to your systems, especially from a reporting point of view. So going forward, there'll be no requirement to report services supplied to EU recipients on an EC sales list. So an EC sales list is an additional reporting requirement that's put on UK businesses now. That won't be required going forward where you are dealing with EU recipients of your services.
Things will change with market access. The service industry is definitely going to change. VAT is going to change. These are things that people need to be aware of and consider, as opposed to saying, well, we'll just wait for it to happen. People don't plan to fail, they fail to plan. And I think this is the key time now to be looking at developing those plans. Really, there's a lot of support that is available. There's the Chamber, which I think is doing a fantastic job. We at SC Advisors are a consultancy, and we're quite happy to help people that are trading and also to put them in contact with our partners in Ireland. They can get advice there. But really, ask around, do your research, and certainly we'd be very happy to help.
In order for a UK business to prepare for a no-deal Brexit, our advice is to first map out any legal and physical flows. So to have a look at actually, are there any of these regulatory requirements that are going to impact the UK business? Or does your corporate structure allow for you to carry on doing what you are doing now? As part of this mapping, we would also identify any areas of potential impact. Is there any point in the supply chain where you may need for example, an EU entity to help you carry on doing business with EU recipients. If an EU branch or company is being set up to cope with the demands of Brexit, it's important to establish the roles of both that EU entity and the UK entity and to make it clear what those roles of each individual business is. Also, we would advise people to monitor the developments of Brexit, to be in regular contact with business advisors, also any other resources, and to prepare for any contingency plans or any backup plans. We would also advise UK businesses to start any negotiations with customers now. So if customers are insisting on only dealing with an EU entity, those are going to need real commercial negotiations to take place. In order to prepare, we would recommend that UK businesses have a look at any VAT position. So do they need an EU VAT registration? Do they need an EU fiscal representatives? This usually requires making contact with advisors or the overseas tax authorities. Some EU tax authorities are insisting on fiscal representatives, others are not. So this is dependent across the EU. My final bit of advice for UK businesses is to start looking at implementing any no remorse actions. So no remorse actions are some key points that UK businesses can consider now, relatively low cost, relatively easy to implement, but may save a bit of time the closer we get to Brexit. So for example, a no remorse action would be considering opening an overseas bank account in an EU country if you have a presence there or you think you may need a registration there going forward. A further no remorse action would be to consider the impact on any EU nationals that you have in your workforce and offering them any support.
Hi, I'm Nick Hardy and I'm the Managing Director and Founder of Hardy Signs Limited. We're based in Burton-on-Trent and we supply and install all types of high-class signage across the UK and in Europe. Mainly over the past 12 months we've been concentrating on all the information that's available through the Chamber of Commerce, particularly through the website and the Brexit toolkit. We've also been very active on the local webinars that have been available and attended many events across the region. In 2018, Hardy Signs were instructed to carry out their first major installation of signage in the EU, in Brussels, ironically. Earlier this year, along with the encouragement of the GBCC and HM Midlands government, we were encouraged to submit a question to Parliament, which was subsequently answered by the Right Honourable Hilary Benn MP. We asked Parliament what would the implications be for a no-deal Brexit on our industry, particularly signage companies who have or wish to proceed working into Europe after a Brexit deal or no deal. The answer came back that UK businesses would more than likely be subject to many restrictions, namely permit to work, immigration issues, and also what was a major concern for me is my installers' accreditations that they achieve here in the UK may not be valid to work in Europe. Each country could vary, which in turn could make us uncompetitive as a company and ultimately lose business. We are preparing internally for Brexit, and we have regular updates and regular meetings with our senior managers just to find out their feelings, what the latest news is on Brexit and how we can make it as easy as possible moving forward. The best advice I can give, I guess, is to get advice. There's plenty of advice out there, as you know, within the Chamber. Reach out and ask for help. Hardy Signs, as I said, have been preparing for over 12 months and fully benefited from the help that's out there. So do as we do and get as much advice as possible.
Clearly, a lot of businesses are members of the Chambers of Commerce and trade associations, and that would be a port of call. But most businesses will get their advice from their lawyers, their bankers, and their accountants. That is the first port of call. Some lawyers, some accountants will provide complementary services in order to navigate Brexit and make your business Brexit-proof. But first to your advisors, second to your trade associations, the better to influence government.
There are a number of resources available to UK businesses for any guidance or support on Brexit. So the first and most obvious is HMRC. HMRC business organisations, business support organisations have a wealth of resources online, running seminars and webinars. Another source of information would be for professional advisors. Most professional advisors are also running seminars, webinars and keeping businesses up to date on Brexit. In addition, there are a number of online resources available externally, such as the Business Brexit Health Check, which is offered by the Chamber itself.